Alright, well, I'm going to get started here. If you are watching this, hopefully you can hear me. Welcome back to Inverted Aviators RC. If you are watching this video after it's been posted, this is not a how-to video, because we got a comment saying that we accidentally wasted a few hours of guys' life because we didn't get this project done. That is because this is not a how-to video. This is a how can we figure out how to do this. So at some point in the near future, we are going to be uploading a video that is all this condensed down into an exact how-to style. But that's not what we're doing right now. We're just trying to figure out how to do it because I don't really know how to accomplish this, but why not give it a shot? So we are going to start right where we left off the last stream. Let's see, we'll switch here. We had this little adapter and this servo, and I didn't really get it working, and I couldn't figure out why it was not working, but turns out I did the wiring wrong, and that's because I was trying to match up the wires from this adapter to the servo wires when I really should have been doing it a little bit differently. Figuring out what wires come from the plane was more important, meaning I should have looked on these little adapter wires and see what wires are coming into this port. Like it goes yellow, red, black, it looks like. And so I should have matched that up with what this adapter is going in, and then matched these wires with the wires coming here. So that may have not made any sense, but in the end, it should really go yellow to white, or the signal wire from the adapter to the signal wire to the servo, and then the black and reds just get flipped. That was a little mishap, but I know it does work now. I tested it with the board, and this servo does move, so that's great. And if we have, this is our board. There were a few different comments that people left on the stream. One was saying that these boards are specific to planes, or like there's no way to go back and adjust the internal board, and what that means is this might not fly exactly right, or at least we're gonna have to figure out how to get it to fly right. And also these ailerons are set, since this is a UMX Turbo Timber Evolution board, the ailerons didn't go all the way up and all the way down. They went they were like 80% of the way, so it can only go up a little bit, but it could go down a whole lot, and that might be backwards. I think it could go down a little bit and up a whole lot. But either way, we are going to have to go in and change the travel of the servos once we get all of that actually onto the plane. But in the meantime, it'll be just fine. But other than that, we have to connect up some push rods and all that stuff. But I think we should start here with getting this servo installed into the plane, because it's going to be sitting out the back here. If I move this up a little bit, let's see, I'll go so it's not all shaky. Something like that. So we've got this servo, which I think is going to be sitting right in this hole we cut in the plane. Remember, near the end, we cut this big chunk out of the middle, which is exactly what we want, because we want this servo to go slide in and then stick up against this back wall, so that not only is it out of the way of everything, but it can also still fully move up and down and get everything moving the way it should. So I think I'm just going to keep moving along just like that. Let's see, everything still looks just fine. Hopefully, if you're watching, let me know if you can hear me, just so that things aren't completely broken. Everything looks plugged in, but hoping that things are working, and I sound loud enough, because I also got a comment that I was a little quiet, so I'll try to either talk louder or talk a little more towards the microphone over here. But yeah, I will keep on moving forward. We also at some point need to install these flaps, and I've got some little nylon hinges that we can use. They are right here, as you can see. They're little nylon hinges, and they work really well because we can slide it into the wing and then connect them to the flaps themselves, and then everything should move pretty nicely. But I still think getting that servo installed is probably our best shot, or at least how we should start here. So this looks to me like just a little bit of hot glue and some light fiddling around. I might cut this hole a little bit wider even, just so we have a little more space than a little not enough space, just because that seems like a good place to start off the stream here. I am still looking for that chat saying that things you can still hear, but I'm just going to assume you can until I hear otherwise. So we're going to start just by cutting into this a little bit more. Let's see if I can get a little better angle here. And again, if you're just tuning in, this is not a how-to video. And if you're watching this after it gets posted, this is not a how-to video. This is me just figuring out how to actually get or do this mod, and then in a few weeks, I will compile all the streams together and turn it into an actual how-to video in our normal style of how we accomplish things. But we're just going to pick up right where we left off and trim away some of this foam. Positive side, we are making this plane lighter, so maybe it'll fly better. Now, how much lighter? It's going to be just almost nothing, but no issues there. Let's see. Just keep trimming this out. My goal for trimming it is just so that the servo horn has enough space to travel how it should, and there's no like interference, because once it gets glued in, it might be a little harder to make these little adjustments. But I'm just going to keep pulling pieces of foam out. Okay. And again, we cut this channel. As you can see here, there's a little channel from this hole, which came from the plane where the aileron wires come out. And there's a hole we cut out here, and we cut this channel so that we can route the servo wires down and up, just to keep everything nice and tidy. But it looks like it should slot in just like that, and then with a little bit of hot glue, let's see, like that, and then we can kind of hot glue it into the wall like this, so that has enough space to travel and it's out of the way of everything. So you can see that, kind of like that. And I might, instead of hot gluing it for now at least, I might just get a piece of double-sided tape and stick it in just so we can see how everything kind of works. I've got some nice 3M tape here. That should be a pretty easy addition. Oh, that's scissors. And again, if you are watching the stream right now, feel free to send a quick chat saying that you can hear me, just to make sure I'm not talking to myself this whole time, because that would be kind of silly. Or at least so you can hear me. You don't have to actually say anything if you don't want, but just some sort of thumbs up would be nice. Alrighty, and I'm just gonna, actually I might even in the end just double-sided tape this in if it works well enough, because hot glue can get a little dicey when working with really tiny servos, just to make sure nothing gets gunked around. But I'm just gonna put this in for now just to see how things are working. That looks fine. So see, it's all in there nice and tight, and there's this servo arm is gonna have to move straight up and straight down, so that's why I cut a little more out of here. And we are gonna have to bend our wire here, and remember this is our kind of model of how it's gonna look. So while this, let's imagine that the flaps are attached to these two wires on the sides. Let's see. So that when the servo is up, the flaps are up, and then as we rotate this down, then the servos, or the flaps will go down. So you can see they kind of move like that. So if we are like this, and we're in like that so that it's up, and then as it pulls down, flaps go down, vice versa, kind of like that. I wonder if it like this, maybe if it goes down, I don't know, something like that is at least our goal. So I'm going to keep plugging along. Again, hopefully you can hear me, but I'm just going to assume that that's all okay. So another interesting part of this is going to be actually getting a wire that goes straight through this, or because the flaps are gonna have to attach to something. I mean, I made a bigger mock too, but if we get this wire here on the inside, and then it's gonna have to rotate downwards, or like this, I guess, but it's gonna have to move so that the flaps can go down with it. And so figuring out how to get a wire in there is going to be a little tricky. That's for sure. So I wonder, we might have to make cuts into the side, because obviously in perfect world we just see a single hole that comes out, and that's where all the rotating would happen. But it might be a little trickier than that, because we're going to have to move the wire all the way in and then attach it, which might mean we have to get a little fancy here. But I'm not against getting a little fancy with it. Okay. So I guess we can even do a test now that it's in here, just to show that it is actually working. I forget which channel or which port it is. I'm going to put it in this port, and I'm just going to leave this here. Got a battery, and I have my transmitter over behind me. So I got this here. So I'm going to connect up battery, and that'll be blinking, and then I'll make sure you can actually see the servo. This wire out of the way. So the servo is in here. There we go. So you can see, let's see, can you actually see it? Yeah, there we go. So that's going to be our mode of movement for the servos. You can see in there. That moving up and down should then be able to pull the servo, or pull the flaps down, and that'll be our one servo controlling both flaps, or at least that's the goal. So in the end, there might be a little extra incision being made straight down so I can route this wire in. But now that we have the servo in, I'm going to get this piano wire and get it to the right shape right here. So it's not as easy as making a straight line through it, because we need this loop here so it can actually pivot and rotate down. So I kind of drew up a little mock of what it might look like up here. So if it has these little hinges on the end, which are going to attach in the flaps, and that's what's going to connect them there. And then if we have straight lines through, and then a little bit of a perpendicular hinge, and I started bending the wire like this. Is that the right one? I forget, was it there? No, it must have been here. But yeah, I'm just going to try to follow this kind of mock as much as I can, with the idea being that if this is right, it's easy to measure and get everything exactly correct. And then I can transfer that into the Discord and make that easier for everyone else to access it as the time comes. But I'm going to try to get just half of this done so I can see if it works. And if it does, I'll keep plugging on and getting the rest of it. But that's at least our goal for now. tools I always want disappear right as I need them. But I'm just going to do some bending here to try to get this wire straight along with this mock. So it's going to take a little bit of fiddling here, and feel free to ask questions, or if not even related to this flap making project, just go ahead and drop them in the comments, because I've got some time to burn here as I'm bending things to try to figure out any questions you have. So feel free. And let's see, we got a bend right about there. I was actually at a new hobby shop today. We were running errands, me and the wife, and we ran across this other hobby shop. Like, oh, that's kind of cool. So we went in, and it was a pretty nice spot. It was like Big Sky Hobby or something. But it's kind of cool just to see a new hobby shop. But there we go. Is that the right? It's a little off kilter. There's that better? Yeah. Or at least it'll be good enough. Okay, so as you can see, we're just following the shape, and then I'm going to have to bend it straight up right around here. And at this hobby shop, which is what I was going to say, there was a wire bending little kit thing, or like a little station to help bend wires. I'm like, oh, that'd be perfect. And they go, oh, no, I'll figure it out without it. But it would have been just fine to use it. Like, that probably would have made life a lot easier. But nevertheless, I'm also doing this to prove it can be done without any external tools or any other things to help, other than just a piece or some pliers and things. So I'm going to keep going away. So you can see I'm kind of getting off of this little template I made, but that's because bending wires can be kind of tedious and annoying, but that's fine. Just making sure everything looks fine, and then I'll try to get this top curl around. Oh, that's right. This wire, or this top bend, is not exactly straight up, because then it wouldn't allow us to actually hinge the right way. So I'm gonna try to bend this back, flatten it out a bit. Because really, it's going to be at an angle similar to how this is, like these 90 degrees on the edge aren't like exactly straight on with this top hinge. So it's going to be at an angle. What that angle is a great question. But I'm going to try to map it similar to this. So if we have these 90 degrees, and it's going to be kind of coming up. So I'm going to lay this flat on our semi thing here, and then we're going to try to bend it kind of up and back. Something like this, maybe. So that we've got this nice angle here. Maybe, hopefully. And now we got this. Now I'll try to get this top angle. It would be pretty wrapping it straight around. Okay, so we got that. Let's see for like that. Then yeah, we want to get it right back down. Now this part we want to make sure it's as close to perpendicular as we can. So this goes straight up, let's see, it goes straight up, straight over, and straight back down. As you can see, like this, I'm going to go nice little U shape here. So I'm going to grab that at the top. Again, if you are in the chat, feel free to ask questions, or at least let me know that you can hear me just because I think I set up correctly, but just never hurts to confirm. As you see, we were getting this shape down a little bit better, and I think it's what we're wanting at least. So we've got this down. Now that I think about it, I really should have just bought that metal bending kit because that probably would have made life a little bit easier. But nonetheless, we will move on. Okay. Now before I get much further, I just want to make sure that if I'm sitting here like this and I go down, yeah, those will go down. Yeah, I think this is looking just fine. And if we go back to our little diagram here, got to there should be a little bend up right around here. Go. Just a little bend. And then right here, we're going to go 90 degrees backwards. There we go. Hopefully it looks at least similar to the other side. Then one more 90-degree bend. Should hopefully get us to what we're looking for. So, how much does this actually match the diagram? Not too bad. But again, so if we are sitting here with this part being on our servo, and we can move this down, and the servos on the end will also rotate down, similar to that of this, where if we move this, if we move this hinge down, the little servo arms also go down. That's at least the dream. I'm going to cut the end of this. And probably launch this somewhere. I've got bigger wire cutters. All right. Safety squints. Well, where'd that go? All right, that's one piece. I figured I launched it somewhere, but where exactly that went, I don't know. Huh. It just disappeared. Is that right in front of me? Well, gosh, I don't know where that piece I just chopped off is. How far could it possibly have gone? Huh. Well, feel free to, or this would be the time to ask any questions if you have any about things, because I'm looking for that little part I just bent, but it is disappeared somewhere in my office here. So I'm going to be looking for it. So that's what the stream's going to be now for hopefully only a minute or two. I have genuinely no idea. Let's see, I was holding it here and I cut it. Odds are it launched somewhere. Did it hit a wall? Did it get stuck? Because if we can't find that part, I think I've got enough wire left to bend a new one, but I don't really want to. Or at least I'm going to go look for it and then find it right after I bend the new one. And again, if you're in the chat, feel free to say that yes, you can hear me, just so that I can peace of mind it. But wow, that part just disappeared. Oh, well, that's a bummer. Can't find it anywhere. Which only means it's going to turn up once I don't need it anymore. Good thing we've got the piece of unbent metal. Ah, there it is. Okay, turns out it was right next to me, like hiding on the ground, but super close, which is fine. So there we go. Now, as long as this can rotate down, is that correct? Because if I move these down, I need the flaps to go down. By the looks of it like this would make them go up. That's interesting because if I do this, these, the flaps go down. So how did I do that incorrectly? Well, it looks like these are just bent a little wrong. So let's see, I'll switch back to here. So as you can see here with this one we just bent, if this is where we're pivoting from and I move this servo straight down, these ends go up, which means our flaps wouldn't be quite correct. So if we're sitting on the plane like this, and the wire is sitting like this, we've got this going down, which is just incorrect. How do we fix that? Has this worked? Oh, well that might be why. These are just facing the other way. You can see this, it comes out, it goes this way. This comes out and goes this way. So yeah, that might be our issue. So I might need a little bit of minor tweaking, but if we're in the plane here, you can see that we've got the little, I mean that's probably way too much bend, because we need it to be like right here. So we've got a few things to fix here, which is exactly expected. I figured this wouldn't go perfectly the first time, but nevertheless. If we go, let's straighten this out. It's gonna be in the end that it would have been just more efficient to just not find this part. I mean, is this just the right size? The little sample one I made? No, it's too small. But at least if we have this part going into the flap like this, why did I have such a sharp angle on it? Why did that matter? Okay, so if we've got this going into the flap here, and I want it to kind of match this shape, it's going out, and then I want it to curl inwards. Like that. So now that it's in the flap, this, maybe even a little more. Something like that. Sure, we'll call that good. I'm just trying to line up how I think it should look. But if we go like that, and then we don't need all that high of a little hop here in the middle. But I don't want it to be exactly the same angle, a little twist here. I'll just give it a little bend. Bend it straight back around so it comes straight back down. I should use the straight one so that it's as sharp as it can get. Okay, so now I've got this little loop in here, and if it's like this, where it goes up, should be flat. I'll make a bend. Well, up is flat, then it goes down like that. But is that going to be enough space? Because where are we actually pivoting it from? So that'll play a big role in where this all goes. If it's pivoting out in front, then we're going to need even less of a loop here than I keep making. It's going to be annoying to deal with. I'm going to make even a shorter little loop here. Okay. So now I got a tiny little loop here. Hopefully that is kind of what we're looking for, so I can rotate straight down. This is what I'm working with here. Just a little loop so that it can sit in here and then pull down and pull back up. I think that's fine. And then I'm going to try to do that on the other side. Or just go straight through. It's there. We want a little bit of a, just to match the shape of the wing, and it comes out and it should bend back up around here. And that angle should match the other one, the other side. That. And so if I then cut a little more off, and this time I'm going to hold the part I care about. Oh, okay. So if I got this, and that will just fold down, as long as everything here is outside there, it'll fold down and up, and I think that's kind of what we're looking for. So this is the one I just bent. And if I move this down, these edges also go down. I might need to like flatten things out a bit, but at least that's at least a goal for now. And there are probably easier ways to accomplish this, like putting servos in the wing itself, and then that's a lot easier to just pull it out. But my goal was to add the least amount of extra weight. And only one extra servo that's in the very center of the plane, so hopefully that, I don't know, helps. You know, you can't mess up, or it's easier to account for one servo rather than two. Just a second here. Okay, that, you bend this a little more. Something like that, maybe. So we've got this. And now the question of how am I actually going to get this into this little housing we have? Because I could cut just a straight line down. If I cut straight down into here, I could then fish this wire straight down and kind of route it in and then tape over it, or, you know, like hot glue maybe just to fix it, which would make it more permanent, which is just fine. That's kind of the goal. Let's see. I want to cut it just far enough that I can still get that there. I wonder if I take out this servo, which again, this is why I just double-sided taped it in, was so that I could take it out if I need it. But sounds good. I'm going to try and get this like servo in, which will require some fishing. So if it's there, it's gonna go like there, then like that, something like that, and then I'll be able to pivot it. So that's kind of the goal. And then if it pulls it down from this pivot point, the flaps will go down like that. So if I then put this back in the plane, we can kind of see where we're going to need to cut so that everything can fit. And I'm using tweezers again to kind of push this servo up against this back wall here. Trying to keep it as exactly vertical as I can, because if you tilt it to one side, the hinges will not work as well as we would like them to. But as you can see now, we've got kind of this mustache on the top. But it does tell us where we're going to need to cut so that these hinges can fit in. So I'm going to just place a little incision straight down. Let's see. Already started. The goal being I can just rotate this down and into it, question mark. Let's see, it says the stream is something lower bit rate, not sure. Gonna keep chugging along. See if I could move these out of the way a little bit more. Kind of, but not really. Let's see, I'm gonna put my knife away. What if I can fit this? Okay, let's see. What am I doing? I could be doing better. I think I just need to cut deeper so that this can actually fit in. Now in the end I am going to probably hot glue or at least masking tape this back so we don't lose this structural integrity. But if you can kind of fish this in. Okay, it's at least in there. Now it's a matter of does it do it all what we want? I don't know yet. I guess we can just give it a test. So if we connect this to here. Let's see if we can actually get any sort of correct movement out of this. Let's see, connect. So far, no. But that's because the servo itself is moving instead of the it's because these, I just need a bigger channel for these servos to rotate through. Okay, if I get a little extra space here. Okay, I'm just cutting bigger channels in here with the idea is once this gets in place, I can take a toothpick and hot glue it across the top here. So we get this structural stability back. We are making it a little, weaker in the meantime, but it's all in the pursuit of science. So that's okay. So if we just go over here. Get some foam out of there. I just move these wires out of the way. Okay, got bigger channels for these parts to move, so let's see if we can get any better actual movement out of it. Okay, kind of. It's still just not double-sided taped in there well enough, so it keeps shifting around, but it's at least more what we're looking for. So I'm going to go back and add more double-sided tape. So we can actually stick this onto the wall without it shifting all around, so we get an actual test. Okay, try it again. I might just have to hold this in place to test it, just so we can actually get a fair analysis of how things are looking. So we've got arm there. So it seems like it's not working at all. But why? What is keeping it from moving? How are we going to do this? Because right now, I want to actually burn out this servo here. It's just getting stuck on something. It keeps just rolling up and then getting stuck. And that is causing me to not move. So I don't know if I have to change the approach here or what, because this is not doing what I want it to. So my thought is, how did the Evo do it? Because I'm trying to do the same thing here. I'm just having one servo control the flaps. So I've got the Evo here, and I'm trying to look, because all it is a, oh, I see what they did. They've got a little clasp on the wire so that it's not pivoting, rather it's just like rotating on that part. So I wonder if I've got something that I can use that will just, this will be interesting to say the least. I need just a little, like, servo horn almost, like one of these that I can put through. I even have the part I'm looking for here. Might have to change gears here after all that. I might have to just add 2 servos underneath the wing, which is why I was like, oh, I don't want to do it that way because it'll add extra weight. But if I can't figure out how to get it to work like this, then that might be my only option, is to get it working like that, which is fine. It's just not what I wanted to do. I also think the small set of servos I got, one came a little bit bent, or not bent, just didn't work. So I'm going to see if this spare servo works, or at least I'll do one of the servos and then finish it up some other way. That servo works, so maybe I can even use this as one of the other servos, but if I just put it underneath the wing, that should at least work. It's not what I wanted. It'll work. It's just that I'm going to have to clean up all the other structural mess I made. Well, why not? We'll give it a shot. Worst case scenario, we don't get to fly this plane again. Best case scenario, we got either flaps or other things we do to it. Okay, so if we are changing gears, that means a lot of this stuff we already went over in the first stream. Well, actually, a lot of the stuff should still matter. It's just that we have a bunch of extra space here for no reason. If we then change gears to not needing this anymore, instead, if we put a servo, we'll use that same one we just used. If we match this line, as you can see, let's see, like that. If we match this direction and put a servo somewhere right about here, like this, somewhere in the wing, we can then simply make the same exact part that we have here. We just have this going straight back, controlling the flap. That should work just fine. Again, it's not what I wanted, but it should work fine. So I guess that's what we'll do. In that case, I'm going to try to follow this exact line. I'm going to use my ruler this time, but follow the exact line that this servo is in at, and make a small incision up here and scrape out just a little bit. I'll probably try to do halfway, just like how this is now. Question is, do I have little servo horns like that for this wing? That I don't know. Got this little bucket of stuff from some guy on Facebook Marketplace, and it's got a whole bunch of nice stuff, but does it have exactly what we need? That's the big question. Which, even if it just had one, I could make one side and then just repeat on the other. Because we're going to need some way to link those up, and if we don't have that, then we're really out of luck here. Saving weight. Oh yeah, saving weight with the removed foam, exactly. Yeah, I guess am I just out of servo horns? That seems like something I should have in abundance of somewhere. Up there, up there. Let's see, I could 3D print some. That could be cool. Might be a little loud, but... there we go. Let's just have one huge one, just as big as the whole wing. A lot of roadblocks with this project, but we're gonna figure out some way to get her done. These parts are just huge. Oh, all right, turn off. I know the next order of Amazon is going to have some servo arms here, because, or some linkage arms, because that is what I think I need to complete this next step. Ooh, we might be in luck. Might be in luck. Let's see. Hello everyone. Hello, you lost gamer. Welcome to the stream. It looks like you got one little kit that may or may not have 2 linkage arms, or a little bag of stuff. Hopefully it does. Okay, sweet. There's 1. There's 2. We can continue our journey here. Okay, I gotta remember to get some more though, because that should hopefully, that may have just saved us a little bit. So, just to follow what is already on this plane here, I'm going to make a cut probably right in the middle of this flap, because I don't really see a reason to put it really close. Actually, if I put it closer to the middle, it's closer to the CG, but then this far side, we'll might have to deal with more of the wind with everything. I don't really have a great explanation on why I should put it either direction. But if I, let's see, should I attach the flap or put in the servo? Probably a little both. I think I'm going to attach the linkage arm while everything's, you know, not together. Now let's see if I can remember which goes where. Did we have 1 line on top? That seems like a tight fit. Or was it 2 lines? I'm guessing it's 2 lines on top. Yeah, so I'm gonna say this is on this side. Is it a different purple shade? Probably not. So if we've got, is the project flaps on the Voodoo? Absolutely, yes it is, Brian Acosta. We are just recently changing ideas on how we're gonna do it. Before, I was gonna try to do it like on the UMX Turbo Timber Evolution, putting a servo in the middle that controls the flaps. I wasn't able to get much success with that. I still think there's a viable solution there. I just can't figure it out. So instead what we're going to do is put 2 servos, one here that goes right to here, and that pulls it like servos on a bigger plane. The downside is going to weigh a little bit more just because there's more stuff going on. But that it should work. And now there is, if you, instead of wiring the servo wires on the flaps, instead of even if you don't want to wire it to the extra flaps channel, you could wire them to the ailerons channel and have full wing ailerons, which could be cool. And if that's the case, you could just use the old board and you don't have to, you know, cut out the new thing. But I'm going to try to do flaps, and if flaps eventually turn into ailerons, so be it. But at least in the meantime, I'm going to take this chunk of flap we cut out. Now we cut out these flaps in the previous stream, so feel free to check that out. And I'm going to put this little servo horn, I think, right in the middle, try to match it up with what we already have, or what's already came with this plane. Just put it right in the middle, and then we can put a hinge on this side and a hinge on this side, and we can have this whole thing really nicely attached in there. So if we put that right in the middle, I wonder if I can just poke it through. I guess I can. So with the servo arms I use there, they went through pretty easily, and they stick up about the same height as the normal servo horn. So as you can see here, we've got this little guy sticking out like that, and now I'm going to put the hinges on. And this is going to be a fun part because we've got these little nylon hinges, which you might be able to see there. But we are going to put some hinges on the sides here, and we're going to use the heat up paper clip technique. And I'm also assuming you can hear me. If you can't hear me, please let me know, because I have been talking this whole time. Hopefully it's not just to myself. So what we're gonna do here is take one of these little hinges, which look just like this, and they hinge really nice. The stock ailerons don't have any sort of hinge. They just have tape and a little bit of paint that keeps them together. We're not going to mess with that. What we are going to do is try to put a hinge right in the middle of this cut we made, like right on this top part, and then do the same thing on this side, and then we'll be able to make some nice hinge action out of this. So what I'm going to do here is try to line everything up before we do any sort of cutting or melting of anything, just to try to make sure that this can still rotate all the way down. Oh, it should be fine. Okay, so I'm going to start with putting it into this wing here, or into the flap itself. You're good. Okay, sweet. Just making sure everything's working. But I'm going to maybe hold this up somehow. Little hands. Great Christmas gift for anyone in RC. If you don't know what to get them some of these little hands if they don't have them, because they are super helpful. That'll work. So all I'm going to do, I wonder if I can actually use the X-Acto knife, which again disappeared here. And since my X-Acto knife, the blade is pretty much the width of these hinges, I might be able to just cut into them a little bit. Let's see. Now I'm going to just poke a little hole. We don't need to go super far in. And then if I go straight in as possible without cutting into the outer side. Then let's see if I can get, well, that's almost straight. And then we can just kind of fish the hinge in. A little bit of a ripping going there, but as you can see, that's kind of the idea, is that once we get these hinges in on both sides, then we can kind of get going like that. But I'm going to keep on working on this first one. That is going straight through the back, which is not what we want to do. So be careful, don't do what I did, and don't try to go too fast, because you're going to end up just ripping through, which is fine. We can just get some packaging tape and tape over it in the end, but our goal is to be really precise with our cuts here, which may have been just smart to put one hinge on one side, or even cut these a little bit shorter, just so we don't go through the back of it, because that is not great. But if we can get this hinge to sit as close to this curve as we can, then we'll be able to, it'll pivot the best. So I'll say that one's good, and we're going to hot glue these in just so they stay perfectly in place. You see we got a little bit of crap on the back side, which is fine. We're just going to cut it a little bit deeper. I could even just cut this side just a little shorter. I'll cut it. There's 3 holes here. I'll cut it down to maybe 2, just so we don't go too far. I'll maybe round out the edges too. There. there. So we can hot glue this in like that. And now we got our hinges as close to this curve as we can. So we'll be really moving around nice. Kind of like that. So I'm going to repeat that for the other side here. I'm just going to try to line it up as much as I can. I want this next hinge to be right in line with this pin. So go straight across. And that way there's no extra friction that comes from when this thing moves. So I'm just going to try to go straight across. Just make a perfect straight cut in. And we have a little more room to work with since it's a little thicker, but we still don't want to get lackadaisical with our cuts. I'm going to take a second hinge. There, that one worked a little bit better. Looks like I don't have anything shredding through, but at least now we've got two that look pretty darn close. If I line up the pins right down like that, you can see that this pin lines up with this other pin pretty well, or at least close enough. So then we're going to turn around and go on our plane, and let's see if we get this maybe like this. We're going to want to line up these hinges with the plane itself so we can get a nice little movement out of it. And so what we're going to do here is just hang them over the edge and then use a pencil and kind of trace them out where we want our cuts to be. So we're going to put the flap in place with the hinges hanging up, and then we're going to make marks on either side of the hinges. So you can see I've got right about there. Right there, and then we're going to do the same on the other side. So now we can see right where these hinges should be lining up. Hopefully you can see that. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put an X-Acto knife straight in, hopefully right to the middle of this line we marked out. And I'm going to take the depth of this hinge and make that the depth of my X-Acto knife. So I know that I'm not going to go too deep, because there's no reason to cut any deeper than this. So I know if I go in that depth, I will be all the way in. So if I just start in the middle and just make a little poke that goes to the outside, so you can try to see that. And then repeat on this side, again trying to be as careful as possible to just cut straight in. Okay, so I might have to cut those a little bit deeper, but if these fit in, that would be just great. Okay, I'm going to cut these a little bit deeper, but as you can see, they are fitting in at least all right. So I'm going to reinstall these hinges. Then hopefully put them on this plane. Okay, so we got a hinge in there, and then if we have flaps, they can pull all the way down like that. And let's see, that would mean that we're rubbing a little bit on this aileron, which just means you have to take an X-Acto knife and kind of file it down. But if we have flaps that go all the way in, if you have ailerons at some point, they can go all the way up. But that's at least the goal here. Yeah, that looks just fine. I'm going to push this side in a little bit more, just so that the hinge pin is as close to this inside wall as possible, so that there's no extra like movement out of here. But get those all the way in, and then reinsert the plain side. I'm also going to hot glue in this little horn here, but for the meantime, everything is just kind of friction fit. You see, now we got an even tighter fit, and we can still have quite a bit of movement up, and we are bumping into the aileron, so I'll just file down this side of, well, I won't yet. Once we hot glue things in, then I'll start filing, because things might change a little bit. But at least in the meantime, that's what we're looking for, something like this, minus the bumping of the aileron. But yeah, something that kind of moves it around like that. We did something very similar to this on the F-15 Eagle. We didn't have flaps on it, and we wanted them, so we added them. And so this is a very similar modification. And so then we're going to need, well, I guess I've got a hot glue gun here. The last drawer I look in, which I can let start cooking up as I, let's see, we got, full desk cam looks like it is not working, which is fine. I haven't used it a whole bunch, but that is a camera that shouldn't just randomly turn off. Low battery. Well, it's been charging this whole time. Well, whatever. I'll just leave it off. I'll keep this camera here anyways. But we've got a hot glue gun that's going to be warming up on the side. And in the meantime, I can try to add in one servo. So we want it to face back this way, and I think I'm going to put it in line with this servo. So I'm going to take like two parallel lines that go from the edge of this servo and the back of this servo and go straight across and kind of cut it in there. So if I take a ruler and draw a straight line from there to right where our servo is, it's also exactly in line with this piece of tape, which is probably what we're going to be using to hide this servo wire. Probably going to peel this tape back, channel in the wire, then tape down this tape. So I've got my pencil again, and I'm going to just draw in some lines here. And then at the back as well. Something like that. So now we have little markings right here and here, and where this servo is going to be sitting. It's right in the middle there. And so I'm going to lightly, and I mean lightly because we don't have a whole ton of extra space to work with, cut this down just a little bit, with the idea being if I eventually get one of these little plastic coverings, it'll work just the same. But I just want to cut it a little bit into the wing so that I can sit a little bit better. And so if I go here and just trace the shape, because again, I don't want to cut anything extra if I don't have to. There, and now I'm just going to be kind of chipping out at this little box I made. Just a little bit. We don't need to go deep at all. So what I'm doing right now is just making very light lines with an X-Acto knife. Then I'm going to go perpendicular to all these and just create little chunks I can kind of cut out here. Alright, so now I got this really nice little grid here of really lightly cut foam, and I'm just going to take a tweezers and just try to pick out a little bit. Again, we don't have a whole lot of room to work with as this wing is pretty thin as is, but we can kind of pick it out and have this servo sit a little bit deeper, which also helps it get out of the way of the wind so that we're not changing the dynamics of this wing too much. Arrow, that is. Apologize if you hate the sound of foam getting scratched and scraped around, but not to sidetrack. No, please. Oh, feel free to ask questions. That's I'm happy to answer them. Sidetrack from the project: does your motor ever buzz at low throttle? I just built my Turbo Timber Evo and got this issue. Any thoughts? Ever buzz? So if it's like a whine, that could be an issue with the ESC or the motor just not spinning well. If it's a vibration, that could just be, if you rebuilt it, the motor housing, like this plastic part, could be just not screwed in or glued in well enough. But other than that, I don't think I've had any just like super high-pitched whine. If you're still using like this stock propeller, or like if you're using a different propeller, that could maybe cause issues. Other than that, I haven't dealt with a high pitch, would you say, a buzz at low throttle. That could also be maybe in a propeller that's not balanced right. If it got scraped up and dinged up, it could be oscillating and only affects it at low throttle, maybe. Those are just my guesses. I'm trying to think, what else could it be? But you're saying at high throttle, it works just fine, because that's an interesting dilemma. Oh, I can see that my hot glue gun is ready to go because it's just kind of gooping on the desk. Do I have a piece of extra foam somewhere, or is it just going to be on the desk? All right, it's on the desk, whatever. Yeah, it vibrates. That could, if it's vibrating, I don't know, that might be better, because it could be an issue of gluing things in better. At least that's something I'd look into to see if it's sorry, I got a bunch of foam. If it's oscillating and vibrating, that could be an issue with the propeller being unbalanced or the motor mount not being glued in all the way. So at least some potential things to look into. But as you can see here, we've got this servo can now sit in a little bit further. Wonder if I could get away with cutting it in even more. I'm trying to match. You see, that's my servo. Get in focus. My servo, their servo. Mine's still sitting a little bit taller. Not focusing on it, but I might try to cut it a little bit deeper, or maybe I'll just even use my tweezers and kind of just pick out more of this foam, just to be more precise, I guess. Very interesting. Also, E-Flight, if you're ever watching these and you're like, hey, this guy would be a cool guy to work with, feel free to reach out. I'd love to design a plane with a whole bunch of flaps and things on a UMX plane, that is, because my dream plane would have at least 7 or 8 channels that we can put flaps and retracts and all these fun things on a really small plane, because it's got to be possible. And now I can do it with the rudimentary tools that I have, but if a major company were to do it, that would be cool. So if this gets up the chain far enough to E-Flight, reach out. Inverted Aviators would be happy to pair, do a little collab, because I've got ideas. So, just a little shot in the dark here. But I've been cutting this hole a little bit deeper. I wonder if I made it too deep, because it's got to be... Oh, no, that'll be just fine. I do need to make it a little wider, though, or a little longer, so that this servo horn can actually rotate still. And I do notice that the stock hole is a little extra space. I guess I can make it exact. We don't have to eyeball it. So I cut out a little bit more. So, okay, so as you can see, I actually cut this servo now all the way in, which is not an issue. It's just kind of funny how it went from I could maybe do it a little deeper to I'll just put it all the way in. But that's in there. And I could even test this all the way, because I've got this other servo has a nice servo wire already bent, and if I could just remove that somehow, or I could even just put this servo in like this, and like this kind of, is this, oh, that servo's bigger, of course. Back to the first one. Where is this? I think there's one of those little micro leads. Like that, maybe? No. But again, feel free to ask questions or point out things that you see that are obviously incorrect of what I'm doing, because I'm always learning, and so if you have ideas, feel free to point them out. But I am looking for a little wire that I can use for the servo, just seeing if I have any that are already pre-bent. Not a big issue if I don't, but it just means it would take a little extra finessing around. may look so far. I always think I have like a whole bunch of all these parts, and then I go to find them and they're just not anywhere. So I'll try to use the one I got. See if I can remove this from this servo. Did this just get bent? Why is that all funky now? Oh no, it's just like that. Interesting. Okay, that came out pretty easily. So I've got, hey, did you get that servo working? No, I did not. So we've got the one servo hole in here, and I could not for the life of me figure out how to get it to route through the bottom, and it was giving me a whole bunch of issues. So it was just being annoying enough, and so I had the backup plan all along to just cut servos into the bottom here, put a servo here and a servo here, with two different ideas in mind. One, it's straightforward flaps, meaning if you were to add flaps to like a bigger plane, you just make one servo. So we can have two servos controlling the flaps, or if down the road I want to Y-lead the ailerons to these servos, we could have full wing ailerons, which make it just super rolly, and that would be easier to change and add on with two servos. But I just couldn't get it figured out. Like, there's got to be a way to do it, but in the meantime, I cut into the structural integrity of the plane, so I'm just going to add toothpicks to fix it. But no, I didn't figure it out, so that's a bummer, because I know it's possible. I just could not, for the life of me, figure it out. But yes, I will also absolutely idea of a small paratrooper, maybe like attached to a servo. That might have to be like the 8th channel. But yeah, just adding, there's so many things you could add to these tiny planes, and they still fly. Like if you've seen the head tracking Evo, that was just taking this, I don't have the ceiling camera. That one turned off for whatever reason, but, or do I? No. Well, the head tracking Evo was like, well, this plane flies super cool, can I add a head tracker? Turns out you can. I just need to, you know, keep flying it to make it better. But it's just these tiny planes have so much power, but they feel like they don't utilize it. Like, let's throw some more cool things on there. That's the end of my rant, because I want to get this working, or at least to the point where I can show it off. So if I've got here, now this is going to be too long, I'm guessing. It might be fine. This will be not exactly how it's going to work, just because, well, wait, I got to flip this around, actually. Let's see. There, now it's on the front. If I tuck this servo in, and then, why is that being weird? Okay. And then tuck this in like this, just to get like a rough estimate of how this should be working. Now this will make the flaps go the wrong way, but that's just because of how it's set up right now. That's because this linkage arm is too long at the moment. So this is going to be a pretty rough demonstration of how I want things to work. I'm also have to remake this adapter lead to be a Y lead to two different servos, or at least I'll probably make a short adapter with two different plugs, so when the time comes I can easily change it in between flaps and ailerons. But that's how it is like that, which means I need the transmitter, and I will need, listen to that beep. Oh, sweet, Brian, or Mr. Acosta. Yeah, the head track Evo was just like this project was like, hey, that'd be pretty cool to add it, and so we did, and it started out by flying pretty horribly. That's one of my favorite intros of the head tracking Evo, of it actually flying. That's one of my favorite intros that I made, and then the other one is the head tracking Corsair. Both those intros were super fun to make. But back on topic here, we're going to connect up the receiver just to show. Now this is going to push the flap up like that, but if I see how it's it's doing the right thing. It's just that this linkage arm's too long, so we're pushing it. It's the right idea. It's just that we need better arm here. But you can see that's how it's going to work at least. We're going to be able to pull and push that servo up and down. So we have a few things we can still do here. One, I'm going to have to make 2 new arms because obviously they are not the right length. We're going to have to glue in these hinges. We're going to have to glue in the servos. I'll try to at least get one side completed in this stream, and then whether or not I do the other one on stream or just burn through that one, that's kind of the whole point of doing it, was just to get the ideas flowing and then get stuff done. But I want to at some point figure this out. What should I do first? Probably glue in the hinges here. So I'm going to, which side should I do first? Probably the plain side. I don't really know. I'm just making all this up as I go. So what I'm going to do here is not put the hot glue gun right in front of the camera, but I'm going to apply a little bit of hot glue to the plain side hinge. Let's see, make sure everything is in view here. Plain side hinge, and then I'm just going to slide in as far as I can go. And then once the hinge is lined up a little outside of this back wall, I'm going to pull it out and then wiggle it a whole bunch so that the hot glue doesn't actually glue the hinge in one place. You know, it's going to be actually able to move. So without further ado, this is going to be hot because it is, of course, not cold glue. I got a little goop. There we go. So apply a little bit on here. We don't need a whole ton because, again, this is a small hinge. And we're just going to pop it in there. That even might be too much. I'm going to try to salvage some hot. And we're going to push it in as far as it goes, pull it out a little bit, and then wipe off any of this excess, and then move the hinge around so that the hot glue doesn't accidentally, you know, glue it in place. But and then that should set just fine. There, and that should be good. So again, you don't need a whole lot of hot glue because you're pushing this into such a small place that if you have any extra, it's just going to glob out and kind of cover up all your stuff here, and I don't want that. So I'm going to lightly pull this out. We're going to add a very small amount of hot glue, probably right on the end, and kind of wrap it around. And then it's just going to push and cover everything anyways. So we're going to be careful, trying to get as much in the plane as we can, not out of the plane. And even then, we're going to wipe some, touch our arm against the hot glue gun, which is really hot. And then once it's in, then we're going to move the hinge so that it can still move even with the hot glue. And, you know, worst case scenario, this is going to be a how to make your Voodoo not fly at all, which you can accomplish that just by throttling up, pitching down, and you'll get the same result. But hopefully this still flies. And worst case scenario, you can't, well, actually that's second from worst case scenario, you just can't use it and you have to fly it without ever using the flaps, which is like, well, you know, there are worse things to do than waste time on RC. So I am not upset at that. I'm going to turn this off before it starts beeping at me again. But we got these hinges in. They are a little stiffer now that they have hot glue, but there's, I mean, if the flaps are a little stiffer, that just means they're going to stay in place a little bit better. And as you can see, we're just going to make sure everything still fits. And now that we've got this in place, I'm going to just take a little bit of sandpaper and sand down this edge because it's running into the aileron. And I just don't want that, so I'm just going to take just a few passes at this, just so we can hopefully not have any interference between the two. Still a little bit. Just like that. And hopefully still a little bit of rubbing. So I'll just keep fixing that up. You can also just take an X-Acto knife and shave it off, but I figured might as well be precise. There we go. No more rubbing. And so I'm going to do the exact same process on the top here. I guess this is the bottom, but just applying a tiny bit of hot glue, both to the ends of these two hinges, and then sliding on the flap. And so you have to be quick, but again, just a tiny bit to both sides. Then just move the flaps on. And then once it's all the way down, just move it around. And also that hot glue will cause a little bit of tackiness for the hinge. You can just keep moving it around. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Nice. You can't, of course, can't see it. But we got a hinge that sits right in the middle. I mean, you can move it up and move it down. So that this would be, normally flaps would bring it about here, and then eventually if we switch it to double ailerons, they can go up as well. And just get that precise movement. Now, the goal of these is going to have the servo directly in the middle so that it can deflect equally both ways. But if we are just doing flaps for now, I guess we can still go middle and use half of the servo. So just thinking out loud how we're actually going to accomplish this. I can also hot glue in this little horn, which is going to be just a tiny amount of hot glue. That even might be too much. And just popping it in. Once it's straight, like your finger, and then wipe away the excess so you don't accidentally scorch everything, but that should be in there just fine. And again, this bends all the way around the corner. You also can take an X-Acto knife, and if you've got a little too much hot glue in these joints, just kind of rake at the hot glue so that it could move around just like that. So what else do we got? We've got some of these, or I gotta get this servo in, which probably do that because that's pretty easy. I'm also gonna peel off this sticker so I can route these wires straight into the fuselage with the ailerons, and then I'll tape it back on. So we still have that nice covered look with this nice purple sticker, but it's gonna hide even more wires, which is, I guess, the whole point of having them. So I'm gonna pull this out, and now on the back here, we've got a whole lot of stuff going on. Hot glue won't, it'll be fine if hot glue gets on it because that's kind of our only option, but I'm gonna put just a little bit, on the front and back where these kind of arms are so that we can get it all gunked in. We don't need a ton, but we do need a bit. So and we're just gonna pop this in. Okay, that should hold it in place. And now all we need is the servo arm itself. What's actually pulling and pushing, because again, the one that came on that other servo is just way too long, so that it was causing it to go a little bit crazy. But we do have this piano wire that's left, so what we're gonna do is create a little hook at the end, go straight through, and then that should be able to, pull it back as we go forward. And if I can manually center this, which it should be able to, unless there's hot glue that got in there. Hopefully not, because that would be pretty annoying and completely my fault, which I guess I should have thought about that. Let's see. That back on. Beep, 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 beep. And once this connects up, we can see if this servo, well, you might not be able to see it, but see if this servo is attaching the way we want it to. No, and I think that's because, okay, first disconnect. I think I accidentally just glued this in, which means we have to just pop the servo out. Before it sets too much. Yeah, there's just hot glue gumming up these gears, which I should have thought of. But if that happens, you just take your tweezers and just pull out the glue because we want this to move freely. And I don't want to like force these gears too much because they are just nylon in the end. And so I don't want to accidentally pull too much and have them not work well, but I'll try it again. I'll just plug in. Okay, it's still gummed up. We'll keep plugging away. Dang, that's a really small, annoying problem. Or, you know, accident to make. Just getting too much hot glue on the servo itself. Alright, so if you're watching it, don't put too much hot glue in here because you're gonna just gunk up everything. Which, is that just gonna be too bad? No. Wonder if I can just pop off this gear and replace it with a different gear I have, because I bought these micro servos in a pack of 2 and one came and it just didn't work, which is annoying, but nevertheless. Let's see, you should make videos branching out, maybe try balsa planes or something like that. Yeah, that would be pretty interesting. So far, yeah, we've only stuck to foam planes. But yeah, trying to make something of our own, or even trying like EDFs, because we've done a video on EDF, or maybe 2. But yeah, just trying new planes and pretty much anything you can stick a camera on. So that's kind of our forte. So yeah, I'd be not against something like that in our future. And then, well, good luck. Thank you very much. We will, well, this stream will go up afterwards. And then once this project is done, or at least more fleshed out, we will turn it into like a how-to video if you want to do it yourself, which will exclude all of the random cuts that you'll make, or like the accidental cuts that I made into the plane. It'll just have exactly what you need to do. So if you are watching this video right now, this is not the how-to. This is just the pretty rough how we did it. Let's see. I am, in the meantime, replacing these 2 servos that I got a whole bunch of glue in, or the gears on the end, because I'm taking the broken servo that I'm hoping to get a replacement for. if I can take these servos off, that would be a nice, actually that might be in the way. I'm gonna take the big servo off, or big gear off. And then take the little one off. Hopefully these streams will illuminate how many things I break in the pursuit of making something like this, because I've got a whole bag of broken parts, which, I don't know, they're not really useful, but it might be cool to put in like a table of broken parts, or just to show that things very often don't work, and that's okay, because in the end you'll have either a plane that doesn't work or something that does work, and either way you're able to move forward. So that's enough deep talk. I think I've got, yeah, these are spinning fine now. So if I then reattach this, we're back to making sure that this does work, because I got overzealous and glued way too much. But here we go. Hopefully this just spins fine and we don't have to worry about that. Great, doesn't spin at all. All right, by some miracle, I just had to pull the gear out a little bit and then it does work. Cool, so we didn't break that yet. So now to try to re-glue it in without getting any extra glue on the servo. So what I'm going to do is peel out all of this glue that's in here, and then even cut a little bit deeper for where these gears are going to be, so that I can be absolutely confident that there is no gear glue issues going on here. I'm also getting close to the top, I can feel, so I know it's deep enough. So I'm going to do exactly what I just did, except I'm only going to glue this back half so that I don't actually get any glue on the top. So glue nowhere near, actually no, I'm going to glue in the plane. Okay, just put a little dollop on the back. And hopefully we can not gunk up the gears this time. We'll just set this in here, push it in, let the hot glue grip it down. This time we should still be able to move these servos. Let's see, the Happy Corgi. Do you have any balsa or any other planes in mind that you'd be like, oh, it'd be awesome if they added a FPV camera to this? Because I have no idea. I've never flown a balsa plane, so I don't know what even to look for. But you know, some big glider or something would be pretty cool. So if you have any suggestions, feel free to, you know, drop it here, put it in our Discord, either way. But back to hoping. Okay, that's what it's supposed to look like. As you can see, servo moving. Great. We know it's not broken. Yet. I keep saying yet because it could break at any minute. So, what I actually should have done is centered this servo, so I know exactly how far to push it, because this, if it's on a 3-position switch, if it's on a 3-position switch, I'm just thinking, let's see, I was a gifted balsa glider, Dancing Wings Griffin. What sounds cool. Dancing Wings Griffin. My only, I guess, scare about balsa planes is if you crash them, they're pretty much gone. I think. I haven't flown them. But with foam planes, at least you can, like, popsicle stick them back together. That's just, like, my tentative holding back from balsa planes is if you crash, which we don't like to crash, but planes do get crashed quite a bit. But yeah, it still would be really cool to add stuff into balsa plane because they're ridiculously light and all that stuff. Whoa. So let's see if what I was about to say was, do I treat the center here as the flaps up, and then if I flaps down, they go a little bit, you know, or do I treat this as flaps middle, and then I've got even more travel with the flaps? My only reason for thinking about it is that if I want to do ailerons eventually, I would have to redo these arms and redo the center position of this so that it can travel differently. Or if I just go all in on the flaps for now, I could have more flaps. I might do that. I might make it a second project down the road of redoing the arms and stuff. So conclusion is that I'll make this just, this will be flaps up, and then as we go, you know, as we increase this value, the flaps will be even bigger. Okay, good discussion. That's where the flaps are going to be starting from. And I saw I got a comment, gifted balsa glider, that dancing with Griffin. Yeah, the glue I'm using is extremely strong. Yeah, that's the scary part. That's also the thing with FPV. I find it a lot easier to not. I should be very careful with my words. I find it easier to not crash because you can always tell which way is up and down. But so that might be something that if we do FPV with balsa planes, it might just be that we don't crash so much because FPV makes it more fun. That could be completely wrong, and we could crash it and then we'd have a pretty sad time, but who knows? That reminds me of a good quote from the guy at Hub Hobby, which is our hobby shop where we live. The guy says, the day you stop crashing is the day you stop flying, which means things are going to go wrong, and that's just how things go. So, with that on our minds, I'm going to bend in this control arm here, and so make sure you can still see that. We're going to create a little hook on one side to go through this flap, and the other one is just going to go straight to this arm, and it should hopefully be a pretty quick bend here. If I can find like the smallest thing to like make a hook with, which this is a wire cutter. Oop. Sorry, that stuff. But what I want to do is just make like a S curve, which I'm not going to use the wire cutter because it, believe it or not, will cut it. So I'm going to just go to the very end and try to create 90 degrees like that. See? And then I'm going to need to do another 90 degrees the other way like that. Oh, it actually worked really well. So that way I can fish this wire through. Let's see, probably the bottommost. Is this wire going to be big enough, or am I going to have to get creative again? Okay, good. So we fish that wire through, and then we can turn this wire in. And now that's pretty locked in there because of this extra 90 degrees we made. Let's see, like this. If you can see it, but it's pretty locked in on this control horn. And so we're just going to do the same thing here. I'm actually going to move this a little bit just so that it is on the other side. Like that. So now it's more towards our other servo. But what we're going to need to do is do the same. See, do I do the same thing? How then would I get it out? Or in, for that matter? How does that work? Do you need to do both exactly the same on both sides? Probably. Okay, well, if I need to do that there, then I have to do a bend. Or let's see, there's a way to add a little bit. If in the middle, I add a little hook or a little loop. I think that didn't just break. So you can see on this servo, there is this loop in the middle. And if you need to trim out this wire, you can bend it so that it's a little more, it's like a mechanical trim. So I'm looking for it's a mechanical trim. So you can pinch this and then the wire be a little shorter so it would bend up a little bit more. And it's just easier than trying to get this wire exactly the right distance. Instead, we can just make a little loop in it and then we're able to kind of pinch it if we need it to be a little longer, a little bit shorter. So how am I going to do that if I want it to be straight through here, then loop? I wonder if I can just kind of somewhere in the middle, take it, bend it. I'll actually go closer to one side, bend it straight up, and then I guess just bend it over. I'll give it a little extra thickness just to go back down. And then I'll try to 90 degrees this out. Okay, so I got a little loop in there. So now that I can pinch that if I need to kind of tighten in or mechanically alter this wire to make it longer or shorter. So then if it is in here, which I keep taking this in and out, it's like that. And then I need to create just a secondary loop here at the end to connect it to the servo, and then we should be, I think, good to go. Let's see. Ooh, that's some more stuff. I was to go, but oh yeah, absolutely. Put a picture of the glider in. Oh, sweet. Yeah, I'll take a look at the Discord once I'm done here. But yeah, that's for sure. We're always looking for things to expand upon and do more stuff. I've got a picture of, I think it'll be my back wall here. Yeah, so that's all the planes we got going of stuff that we're gonna do. But yeah, we're always looking for more ideas and more things to do. So yeah, thank you for sticking around. Let's get back to trying to at least get this one side done in this stream, because I know we've been going for a few hours already. Does it say how long we've been going? Since 7:05, so a little over 2 hours. Oh, I actually see the street. This is the glider. Yeah, that'd be really cool. A nice T-tail. Cool. I always like new ideas. How can we make sure I don't accidentally make this way too not the right length? Wonder if I put a little piece of, or I mark this with a pencil right where after I want it. Or better yet, if I take a piece of painter's tape and just tape it right after where we want. So if it's here, we're going to want it right here. And then I can take this off. Come on, you. Okay, and then if I just fold this over. So now we've got the exact distance passed. So if we're back in, we want this to be 90 degrees right after it, right? So if this is in here, yeah, if we 90 degrees pretty much at this tape. So I'm gonna try to go exactly the same, on the same plane as this first L shape. So I'm gonna try to bend it like down and then go this way with it. So if I go here and just grip the tape, try to bend it straight down, straight-ish. And then I'm going to remove the tape since I know that it's in the right spot. And that tape, there we go. And then I'm going to try to make just as small a bend I did there. The same idea here, where I just grab the very end of it and then bend this wire around it. And there, I have a nice little S curve here, and I'm going to then cut off the end. Should I do that yet? I guess there's no other way to route these wires in without doing that, so I'm just going to cut this off. I'm going to use my bigger wire cutters so I don't break my smaller tools. And just put on my safety squints. There we go. So, moment of truth, we've got, this is what our little wire looks like, and we're going to route this in, bottom, turn it. Now, here's the part I was wondering about earlier. How in the world do we get that in? This was not the right thing to do. Or like it might be viable, but I think the correct thing to do is actually get one of these. Oh no, what did they do? No, they just made 2L curves. I can do that. Yeah, gosh darn it. The question is, how did they do it? Because that, I'm assuming they just bent the wire and bent it back, which is why we put a bend in the wire. So, gosh, that is just, I'm assuming they put this in and then glued it in. Probably. All right, let's do that then. Going to, for the second time, remove the servo. Again, if you're watching this, if you're watching the how-to video, you're not going to see this step of me gluing and ungluing because you don't want to see that. But since you're watching the entire process of how this is done, there's a lot of mistakes that were made. So that's part of the fun. So, got this wire, which we're going to want to be sitting this way. So we're going to fish in this wire like this. And if then we put that in there, that should be what we want. Now, good thing I left the hot glue in, because I'm going to flip this over and we're going to put hot glue nowhere near these gears because I don't want to mess that up again. We're going to put them in there. Hopefully that's out of the way enough. And we're just going to fold this down like this. Okay, sorry, my arm was probably in the way for a lot of that, but I was just pressing this servo back in there. You've already seen that a few times. But that looks like it's all in there. And also, pretty deep in there. I'm going to get some water. Okay, let's give this another test because hopefully this is more what we're looking for. And that we have one flap done. It's got some dogs barking. All right, that's connected. And that still looks fine. Transmitter's on. Beeping at me. Got this. Okay, that's plugged in. So hopefully, if things work, flaps are up. So that means this is where we're expecting that to be. This is all fine. Whoa. So did I glue in the freaking gears again? What did I do wrong? Third time coming in and out. Ugh. No, they're fine. They're spinning. What's the issue here? All right, I guess we'll test it with this servo not in there. Am I going to add a retractable gear? That is a goal at some point. Now the issue is, this is a 5-channel receiver. Technically it's a 6-channel receiver. The issue is that 6th channel is specifically and only for safe because it is a digital channel. It's one that we don't have any access to, we can't control. So we have 5 channels, and right now the 5th is going to be used for flaps. But if in the future I want to make these servos attached to these ailerons, and then we have full wing ailerons, then we have the 5th channel, which could be retracts, which again it's a goal at some point because that'd be really cool. The issue with that is we also have a mechanism that folds the gear down, which we're trying to design and figure out, but it has to be tiny and strong enough to hold this gear up and able to fit somewhere on here. So yes, we would very much so like to. We don't know how to yet, which is pretty much how a lot of this goes. It's just like, I want to, I don't know how to. But right now, okay, so the servo is not broken. It's just being a nuisance. But I wonder if it's just that these hinges had too much hot glue in them, so they're kind of stuck at the moment. Let's see, I'll try to pick some of that off. Cool, yeah. Oh yeah, there's a bunch of hot glue in these hinges. So, pro tip, use even less hot glue when doing these hinges than you think, because odds are you're going to use too much and then kind of you have to just make more work for yourself down the road. Just picking off hot glue. Hopefully this makes these hinges move easier. I have a P51. What was that? Yeah, so if these flaps work, which these are the same flaps or the same style of flaps we added to the F-15 Eagle, just adding an extra servo here and then doing all that. So it, on paper, should work just fine. The retracts is the hard part. I don't know if you saw the first stream, or at least the goal. We were trying to add a servo here and cut it in and have them move the flaps via one servo in the middle. Couldn't get that figured out, so I kind of pivoted, I don't know, an hour ago, or probably 2 hours ago, to try to, you know, change things around and get things working, because while eventually we might have come up with an idea on how to do it, it was not coming to me at the moment. But yeah, I think retracts would be really cool because people, I mean, there's discussions like, oh, this plane flies a lot better with the gear off, but I don't like belly landing because you have a chance of busting up the prop, and so I leave the gear on. But if I could just fold the gear up, oh, that'd be so cool. So earlier I said if E-Flight wants to collaborate with Inverted Aviators RC, you guys would see some crazy UMX planes coming out, because that's clearly our favorite type of plane. Adding retracts and all this stuff. Is there a UMX plane that has retracts? I don't think so. Because if they did, we'd have it. Absolutely, we'd have it. Okay, I think these hinges are getting easier and easier to move. They might just need some just extra wiggling around, but yes, they are still a little stuck. Yeah. Okay, as I peel off more and more hot glue, yeah, retracts would be sick. I agree. I think that'd be really cool. We've got one of my favorite planes to fly is that Corsair behind me, which you can't see. But it's one of my favorites, just that it has retracts, and it's just such a cool to see those go up, or at least via FPV see those retracts just peel up. And seeing that on a UMX plane would just be so cool. So, well, hey, if the Inverted Aviators channel and crew are the first ones to come up with those micro retracts. That'd be cool. And if E-Flight would, or whoever wants to collab with us to get retracts defaulting on a normal plane, that would be cool. Okay. This is also getting a lot more movable. So I'm gonna try to put this servo back in. I don't know why every time I put it in, it just wants to freak out and not go. But I've got slowly more and more. Actually, I just might leave that hot glue in there just so we have a little more base. But I'm going to unplug this. Oh, another issue with the UMX planes and retracts is just the size. Because they're gonna add so much stuff, it's just like, can the plane actually have enough foam left in it to, you know, survive? So there's always stuff to think about and add, but I want to get one of those mini Corsair UMX planes and add all the cool stuff to it too, because my favorite plane is the Corsair, and haven't made a UMX Corsair in a while. So let's see if we can get this working again. I just want to get one side working and wired in, at least. So if I can do that, I'd call this a success to some degree. Okay, now this is gonna go to the top, which should be, oh, I see that is not even close to glued in the front. Well, we'll see what happens. Might just, if I hold this down, okay, is that just not in at all? Why is that? Why does that push back? See that? Why does that go back? Okay, interesting. You said minimum RC has some microplanes that have retracts about their P17 kit. Interesting. I might have to check that out as well. Let's see, why are these servos just acting up? Or maybe it's just my engineering acting up. Probably more the latter, but I'll add more hot glue, but again, keeping it away from that front. Okay, now that's in there more. I also moved it to the top servo horn because maybe that'll be easier on it, but hopefully we can at least get some success here. So we got flaps up, and they'll bind here for a second. Get this up here. Okay, it's close. It's just because we're so far, or we're not at the bottommost, or actually I could fix that by trimming it with this manual trim, but at least we kind of got to have, you know, how much flaps do you want on such a small plane, but that at least looks close. I might have to do some slight tweaks here and there. It's not bad. obviously these are smaller planes. I wonder if I could actually flaps. I can make them bigger. So if they're at negative 100 now, if I just increase this 150 and 150. I wonder if that makes it actually change anything. No. But I know you can change the endpoints. If I were to use like a different transmitter, I think I could alter those a little easier. But I mean, that's what we're looking for, right? That's flaps. And it is low enough that I could probably put some sort of covering on there relatively easily. And then again, the goal is to just wire this tape up through here and then through into the main fuselage to the same holes that the ailerons go through. But yeah, that's kind of what we're looking for. Good success. I guess I'll start on the other side. Got nothing better to do. Let's see. I wonder. Yeah, well, at least that's what one half looks like. So the second half should be hopefully as easy. Ugh. Alright, I guess I'll just keep cracking on. Got the same thing going on the other side for hinges. So I'll put it halfway, let's see here, that like that, that like that. I guess I should do the same process of putting in that little control horn, which is somewhere else. Alright, I know I had 2 control horns. That's why I was able to move forward with this project. So I had 2 control horns. Where'd they go? Oh, there it is. Alright, so same on the other side. If I have this like this, pop that right, I'll try to get it as exact as I can. Right in the middle. You of course can't see any of that. Here we go. Trying to make this exactly the same as I can. There we go. So I got this, which is of course not the same. All right, we got an extra little hole in there, but this should be really how far? It should be like this, like that. All right, I'll do it the old-fashioned way and just measure it. How far do I got from there to there? I won't do it the complete old-fashioned way. I'll do it the semi-old-fashioned way. Okay, that far. and then this far off this edge. Maybe it was the same-ish. I should have really planned that ahead and just done it like a consistent distance away. Live and learn. That's the whole project is anyways. Okay, so it's about there. About there. That look about right? Sure. Okay, got the control arm in. And then we're gonna get some hinges. Which I'm gonna do the same thing. Where I just take a little bit of this. I'm gonna cut into here, hopefully straight up and down. Okay, and then remember on this bottom side, we don't need to go in as far because we have less plane to work with anyways. So we're just gonna be careful and not go in that far. I'll even trim some of this hinge down just a hair so that we don't have to deal with that. Okay, so does this fit in there? Probably no. Oh, maybe. Okay, there we go. One hinge. And then second hinge. Like that. There we go, 2 hinges. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side, or on the plane at least. So we're going to bring out a pencil and mark where these are actually located. If it's like this. Here we go. Hopefully this second side goes a little bit quicker. But we're going to cut in here. Let's see, I'm trying to get exactly flat. Okay, cutting those in. See if these hinges fit. Ooh. Go. There. That's our second side. Hinges look just fine. And then I'm going to try to use this other hinge because, and the other hinge I got, that's the pair to this hinge, is broken. But this part I think is a little more important, getting this weight even on this side. Like you're equally far away from the center of the fuselage. So I'm going to measure this distance. 31 millimeters ish. 31 millimeters ish. Should be just fine. Okay, And what did I do last time? I just took my ruler and drew a line from the back here. Top. And then around this line. And however far this is. Okay, so we got another square just like the first side. Square to cut out. On to cutting out. Okay, more there. Okay. All right. Sorry if you don't like the sound of foam getting scraped. Because neither do I. But the servo fits in the same way. Needs to be a little bit bigger. Let's see how much bigger. All right, servos in. I guess I can start out gluing stuff again. We'll go with the, what did I do? What did I do? I did the plain side first. Okay, so this, remember you need only a tiny bit of hot glue. Anything more than that will cause you issues. So, tiny bit of hot glue. Even that might be too much. Next, our goal is to have this hinge still move freely, or at least as free as we can, so you don't get this really stiff joint like we do on the other side. I'm going to repeat just a tiny bit right on the top. All right, second flap should be in. This side's going a bit faster, which is good. Shows that we're learning. Or at least we can make mistakes faster. Okay, this one right here. Okay, I'm just gonna keep plowing on through. This is the same depth. I could actually cut this a little deeper, I think. Something I just thought of. Something I just thought of. We are currently at 799 subscribers. So if you want to be the 800th subscriber, now would be the time to subscribe because you would be number 800. And I probably could show that on the screen, but I don't know how to. So I'm just going to leave it as is. But just if you want to, you can always hold that accolade to yourself. Or, you can be proud of that. I only thought of that because going into it, we were at 797. And we're like, well, that's kind of close. And since then, I don't even know if it's from the live stream or not, but we're close. So our goal, of course, is to get to 1,000 and beyond because why not? But I guess our main goal is to make stuff that's cool. And so that comes first, and that's what we're doing. All right, I'll be right back in just a second. Am I muted? No. All right, I'll be back in just a second. All right, we're back. Let's see if, since I said the subscriber count, things changed. 799. Okay, let's get back to it. Good break there, but we are almost there. Again, I'm going to test to make sure that this servo still works, so we don't do what we did last time and have a servo that sometimes work. Crazy Quad Brother P3, hello. You are, if you're just joining us now, you are about 2 hours behind, which is all right. We've got one servo working for the flap, and we're working on the second one. And I'm seeing if this servo works. It did. What changed since then? Oh, my fault. There we go. Why does this servo sound so much more aggressive? But it works, which is the important part. So we're going to put this servo in here. Which, is that the right way? Yeah, that going forward. Okay. I shouldn't glue that in yet. I made that mistake already. I'm not trying to make multiple mistakes, or at least the same mistakes multiple times in a row. So let's see here. I'm going to create the little wire bend here. Or actually, wait. Does this one that came with it work? Or can we make it work? Where'd that go? It was right here. There. Because if this could work somehow, that would save us some time. So if we have this going in here, we want this to come up and over. Hopefully my mic's on. Yep. Okay. Actually, what I want to do is test this servo with it all the way this way, which I think it'll be about here. and then I can put it in here and get the actual distance we want for this little arm. Which is here. And we can, how does this work? Going like, no, it goes in like this. Come on, you. All right. No need to be difficult. Here and in and think like that. Just a little different, but whatever. And if this goes right to here, now our issue is that this is a little long as is. So I could either pinch this down, which you can't see. I could pinch this little U-bend to make it shorter, which I think is what I'm gonna do. Because that's the point of it. So I could trim this down. Without, you know, too much extra work. Okay, so then if I can get this into, let's see, I did the top one, so I'll do the same. Okay, something like that. So then as it goes this way, did I do that backwards? Yes. No. I did do it backwards. Okay. No big deal. So I'm going to stretch this back out. What I was trying to do is get this servo to be at 0 flaps and have this flap being straight, and I accidentally put it at pretty much backwards full flaps. So I'm just going to take this servo, turn it down the other way, which I think it should be about 1,000-ish. Maybe it's higher than that, but I'll put that here, and then I'll put the servo in. And then, of course, I don't actually put the servo in yet. I wire in this into here, which, if this is, okay, so I was kind of right. I still needed to have this pinched. Because I want this to be in here. All right, because at, well, that's an ugly looking wire. Probably fix that at some point, but that's at least the idea. Now, can I test it and have it actually work? So it's kind of working, and it's kind of not because this wire is so bent. It's because all the, you can see this wire flex. I don't know why it's kind of bottoming out, but either way, that's at least the idea. As you can see, you got the flaps going up, down, and up, and down, and up. So like that's working, or at least as much as I can hope for. So I don't know if I want to use this servo necessarily, just because it's different than this other servo, and I bought these in a pair, and the other one came broken. So do I want to keep it the same just so that it looks the same and, you know, it looks good? I'll make sure that's not just sitting there. Also then I could remake a wire that's, oh wow, that's not even close to being lined up. Wonder why that is. That might be something to fix as well. Let's see if I got something else that changed. No. So at least that's the idea. What I was noticing was this line. Well, actually, that might be something I could fix. The line from this servo goes straight out, and it's not right in line with this servo head, which just means that all the force is going this way, and then it's actually being pushed at this angle, which causes it to kind of like bend a little bit weird. While on the other side, it's pretty darn straight. So that might be another thing that I just fix a little bit if I get a new set of servos in here. I'm trying to think, is there any other things that are easy enough to do right now? Nothing's really coming to mind because, I don't know what's complaining about, but that's pretty much the gist of it. After this gets back in, or after I figure out what to do with this servo, all we need to do is peel up this tape, route these wires underneath so they come out the same gap here with the ailerons, and then I can plug them into the board on the top. That part's not that hard. Then I need to just mount this board back on the top here, which I think it's somewhere. Oh, that's interesting. That if it, well, I'll figure out the CG, and then I'll mount this board here, connect everything up, which should be relatively straightforward, and then get these things back hooked in, and then that plane's pretty much good to go. Figuring out also the aileron travels, but other than that, this is coming along nicely. Oh, I also have to fix this part of the plane. This was our first attempt at these servo flaps, which I still think there's some merit to it, but in doing so, I did make it a lot less structurally sound, which I'm going to put some toothpicks across here to strengthen this back up, hot glue that in, and that should be just fine. But other than that, I think I'm going to call the stream there because I've been going for about 3 hours, and this has been the back end of the project like this, or like when I wanted to add a head track under the IA Evo, this was all that happened behind the scenes. Same with the head track in Corsair, or pretty much all of our other projects. It's just sitting here at a desk, and so I said, well, might as well stream it so that everyone can see and provide ideas and, you know, condolences when I break different parts. But thank you so much for watching. Stick around if you want to see actual videos. Like this one will probably eventually be a real video. But yeah, thank you so much for watching.